on, and then president stuff leaks, and now all of a sudden it becomes classified. So I'm investigating and looking at information because we had everything happening from traffic pumping that would come in across the gateways that would result in 80-year-old people getting $94,000 phone bills to Merrill Lynch, Morgan Stanley, right, being attacked, to government attacks, to phishing attacks. And so what happened was, oh, you're on mute.
No, I'm not.
So what happened, and what Tulsi was talking about this week, and what has just driven me crazy, and I'll fully explain it, is because the internet protocols, they're defective. Not only are they defective, but the switch vendors in Silicon Valley and elsewhere, the fabric that they put out, the fabric isn't designed to do what is called layer 0 management, and it's not designed to do checksums. So hackers break into these pieces of equipment, they change routing tables, they compromise routes, and they gain access. And then at the higher levels, up to the application level, they're sending people in the military spoofed information or targeting them. And one of the favorite ways for these people to target people is they've broken into, for instance, the wireless back office, and they'll call you on the phone. And when your phone rings in the call tree, it's pinging you. And when it's pinging you, it's giving trajectory information of longitude and latitude of 2 towers. You're triangulated of where you are. And if you answer, it's even worse because they get a longer read on you. But the point is how these things are used as a weapon system. So now I know where you are, and I know, whether I'm going to attack you, okay, as a military person, okay? The email. Now, this is an area that's sensitive to me because I get constantly attacked by idiots. They send me spam emails, and I'm like, I'm an expert in this area. I've been an email admin. I know the protocols and all of it. Email is the most insecure way of communicating with a person that you can. It's in the clear. Mm-hmm. Everywhere it goes on the network. So is SMS and MMTS.
Wow.
So what happened was, before this was a 2010 patent tied with taking way beyond Signal, taking your phone. Okay. These phones, CDMA 2000, they have 4 keys in them. Okay. And these are all on the same spectrum. It's like a walkie-talkie when you're a kid. Everybody.
But it's no way. And better than anybody. But that's communication again is massive in the intelligence and in the warfighting world. Right? So that again.
Well, applications. So look. Even if you're a general and you do all these other things, you have a personal life, you have a wife and children, you have bank accounts and all these things. That's not just the big problem. Was the government is using these applications, and then you've got people and companies, okay, like Microsoft and these other vendors. And in my case, I was one of those vendors for these people, right? And we're doing work here. But we offshore work. And when that work is offshored, this is the epitome of the stupidity. Okay. And I feel Tulsi's pain. Because I got tired of it Sunday night and went to the FCC OIG and filed a report because I'm tired of being attacked myself, and I'm tired of seeing people attacked. Okay. I'm tired because there's a number of patents here. They're huge patents. And the people involved are people So the situation is that you have applications attacking people. You have it going through government. You have the dummy data with the guys offshore in another country. They're not Americans. Okay. God bless them. They just want to work. I get it. I understand. But that problem is that you put it over the wall, you give it to us. Now we go test it and we put it in. Now, those people offshore know where all the holes are that they wrote code in, and they sell that to some enemy, or they get compromised and it goes to some enemy. Okay. And that is a problem with me because I sat there and watched this occur. And then I watched people come right through the front door and rob. And I didn't like it. I didn't like it because, one, you're taking work away from Americans, and two, you're jeopardizing Americans. And the worst part about it is that the military, okay, you think Ed Snow never saw my code that I wrote in CC++? No, he never saw any of my code. He never even saw the data. He got a feed from me that I created through the sheriff team to the government. No, he never saw anything. He doesn't even know how that code runs. That is the first blockchain code in anything cyber in the world before Bitcoin even existed, in CC++, written in video game double buffering from the 1980s. Okay. Video game code. I wrote it in. So we're talking about 3.3 billion records a day. Coding at a level is insane. That's the level of surveillance. So you think Ed Snowden got scared of that? On 9/11, I didn't have a 3.3 billion call data record system. I had a frame relay system in New York that did 80 million records a day, and that was like above normal before the Patriot Act and the FBI came to us to give them the impact. So 3.3 billion now, what today is a lot crazier. And I heard somebody the other day try to say, God bless him. The guys try to say that the NSA in Utah could keep 500 years of phone records. No, no, that isn't the case at all. Because, and I explain to you what the real problem is in a minute. FCC is jurisdiction in the United States. Those records that I had, they were on a global network. They were communication, a global network. Okay, they were VoIP communication. But 33% of that was garbage because they were spoofing the packet headers and the internet protocols and just sending crap through, testing to see what they could take down in denial of service, just trying to break network elements, and then cause phone bills and legacy billing systems to go through the roof. My suspicion was possibly to appease Wall Street and cook the books, but I have no knowledge of that. It just was a big vulnerability. So that kind of problem affects your personnel in the Pentagon when they get home and they're on a little civilian computer or a civilian phone. Okay. And that's kind of people they like to attack. And they like to attack them because maybe if those people are crazy enough to share information, now it leaks. And intelligence groups in China in a white building that we used to watch send traffic wants to do just that. They want to do that. They want to have sleeper cells in country come at you. They want to do it all. And that's the real truth of the world. So I do my job. I go across the silos and top secret areas. I go across all of it. I go facing a NATO committee. Okay, because when you're that big of a communications carrier, your people, you learn the FCC jurisdiction is U.S. domestic only. Once you go out of the United States, it is now NATO. And NATO is facing all those countries. And it goes right across from our people in NATO committee, right across to their country. And it goes right down to their country's government, military, and a police. And there's no FCC in these countries. None. Okay, so that's where it is. Well, this is where things start to stink. Okay, and they start to stink because now, okay, you see that we have no control of what is offshore. Okay, now, I mean, there are things like the Stinger, the P-8 Poseidon that can't be flown in U.S. domestic soil. It's supposed to be flown outside of the soil because the capabilities are so strong for surveillance. Okay. But the problem that is happening here is that as the world matures, and this started in 2014, I mentioned it the other day, late 2013, 2014, we were talking about AI. We were watching what was happening then. What I just explained to you with flaws, okay, coming in and we can't trace it. And now we're talking about our weekly PowerPoint meetings. And up there, I've got AI and quantum computing. Because with AI,
Wow.
you're going to have where we were then, and where we are now.
Mhm.
All of these things in cyber that Tulsi's talking about that have gotten worse and worse and worse, that have bubbled up to her Wednesday conversation, is that processor technology has evolved from where it was in the CPU capability now to CPU and GPU multi-core systems with RAM, okay, that are capable of running AI type of programs at levels that are army size. You don't need human beings. You train them and they go do malicious things. And they just do them all day long, 24/7, 365. They never sleep. So the whole thing is evolving with computing technology. So in the middle of this mess are the destroyers, the aircraft carriers, something that might be on that aircraft carrier that hasn't been tested over in our friends in DARPA up in Norfolk, where they test the EMP or out in the desert. Those things slide by. Oops, I accidentally slid by. A chip is there. So thus we have all kind of chip security now affiliated with F-35s and other pieces of equipment in theater. And this is a really big deal, especially a big deal when the fabs are in Taiwan surrounded by China. And we have a fab problem in Arizona. The fabs aren't online, one, and two, I didn't know this. I'm learning, I'm constantly trying to learn these things, but there's 4 factories in this fab, but one of them is an entire water factory. And not one semiconductor comes out of there without water. So you've got all of these things in play now. And you've got the knowledge of the electrical circuitry.
Yeah.
Okay. As a developer who codes in many languages, I was talking to Dell level 4 engineers when I coded that. I was talking to them about the architecture of their motherboard to maximize that for what I was doing in the software from Red Hat Linux Advanced Server. Okay. That's the level that I played at. The equipment that we had, a 911 is the same way. Sun Solaris equipment. If you're going to be at that level, you better know where your electronics is, but you better have your electronics tripwired in case somebody infringes it. And so part of what happened in all these patents, what led me to them, was the ability to do firmware checksums on things like a piece of equipment on an aircraft carrier that's in theater, or a piece of communication that's in theater that validates its integrity from the day it was issued to you to the day you're using it. That patent was prosecuted by Verizon, along with some of these other patents, because of what was happening in NATO. I was getting tired of it. People were getting tired of it. It was costing billions of dollars. The number that Tulsi dropped the other day was $2 billion. That was for her report. Guess what? It was the $2 billion that she saw. What about the other billions that have had cumulative for all these years since I submitted the patent? So Scott does his work. I just do my job, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I just do my job. And the next thing you know, who's formally knocking on the door with a request? As soon as those patents went in the patent office, Attorney General Holder, okay, who I believe is, I know Jeff Prather. I know what he did with Fast and Furious and the guns. Yep. I know about this. He decided to knock on the door and ask questions. Well, robocalls, they've never gone away. I had letters from senators and letters from Julius Genachowski, former FCC chairman, and people were just tired of it. It was being abused even worse than it is today. So I did something about it because it was costing us in the phone company at the ILEC operational overhead, investigators, criminal activity, customers being compromised. A lot of those customers were military. That military traffic rides on our fiber. The military doesn't own it. We own it. Base center connectivity, all these things. So I'm tired of it because I'm a patriot. I'm obviously a white hat. So I go and get the patents and file them. Then Holder comes, asks the questions. Well, who is the head of regulatory lawyer set at that time in Verizon? Ajit Pai. Surprise, surprise. So Ajit Pai and those guys look at all this and they respond with, yeah, we have this patent and the other patents. We've got them now and we haven't implemented them yet because there's a cost to us. And this is where people don't understand that the cost of rolling out this equipment is billions of dollars. You have to run and service the networks to pay for the equipment on lease. And that lease goes to vendors in Silicon Valley. And the cost of them building that electronics to put it out there is absurd. And they have difficulty testing it at that kind of rollout. So they fix bugs for us at tier 4 level. And we're talking about, electronics and line cards and all kinds of crazy things, but it's professional. Okay. And there's electrical engineers involved in your teams of people. So you don't fix that overnight. And so Tulsi, boy, she got a poker face, that girl. I saw some frustration this time, a little bit of frustration in that there's more to this story that you're not hearing. $2 billion of our tax dollars is one thing, but there's more to this story, and there is more to this story. Okay. Why do helicopters fall down? Why do helicopters crash? All these other things, because we're now in an era where it's not just the men who stare at goats. We're now using quantum weapons and quantum computing that are going to unlock all of these things. So what happens to encryption? This was also on the PowerPoint slides. AI, now quantum computing.
Yep. Let me share with you another story. When I was in Lebanon many years ago for the CIA, we had one of the CIA case officers gathering information, accidentally used the wrong phone, and it revealed like about 8 to 12 different Iranian double agents that we had throughout Lebanon, giving us information on Iran and so forth. Iran found that out and executed all of them like overnight. So the payback, as when I saw this happen in 2024, Lebanon electronic device attacks, basically there were thousands of handheld pagers and hundreds of walkie-talkies intended for use by Hezbollah exploded simultaneously in 2 separate events across Lebanon and Syria. So they Operation Grim Beeper. So 1,500 Hezbollah fighters out of action due to injuries. Some of them had brain injuries from the shrapnel they had the phone up to their head, or the beeper or whatever. And some lost fingers, all kind of eyes, all kind of crazy stuff. So this was something.
So the kill packet went from just taking out an element to now a detonation mechanism.
Yes, exactly.
And the art of creating a kill packet, I'm not going to reveal any of these things because things might be in theater. I'm not going to reveal it, but there's an art of doing this to conceal it. And it's contrived in such a way that even if this is where I mentioned, when you're going to put a piece of, I went through a GSA VAR into the military. Okay. And the company I was in, we went through VARs. Okay. And they're on the GSA schedule to get equipment in. These countries, they probably don't have such a thing, but that's how the United States, that equipment has to be tested. The same thing in our data centers. Okay. You beat these equipment up, you test them, you firewall them and all this, but the art of creating a kill packet is something that is so bizarre that just navigates like a fish through the system as a one little packet. One, and when it's like a trigger on a detonator. It just literally is. So it just took on a whole new
It's a
life.
switch. So they had, I guess there was some company that was selling the pagers, and the Israeli, Mossad basically had put PETN in those pagers, so that when the signal came through, the kill package came through, it detonated them. So crazy stuff. Now that's still possible in theater, where they could fry electronics, or create some kind of field of energy that would explode, even in our modern phones and so forth. So is that,
Fires, laptops, phones, fires, lithium fires.
yeah.
So when you go to explosives, I know you use a lot of explosives in theater. I know how to make them in the organic lab. And we have the building I worked in, we had explosions in. At the top of the building was a lady from DuPont who made the plastic explosives that the United States military uses, these kind of things. So you can put, a warm phone. Yeah. You can put pick rates in here. You can put other things that I can make in the lab that just need a little bit of warmth. And when they get there, boom, this whole thing's on fire, or it's detonated on you.
Wow.
Not just a mercury fulminate trigger or these other things. So, you get in this area, and these are the plastics and the other things, and they're all in different categories. Or nitroglycerin, which is a famous one, trinitrotoluene, TNT, all these little fun things. Okay. Yeah. Of course, I was taught these things by Captain Level 6, Full Bird. So we did this in the lab.
In the Phoenix project in Vietnam.
He was I don't think he was on that. He drove a PT boat in Vietnam. He was in Vietnam. He was in a PT boat.
Okay. Nice.
So Dr. Hargrove, he's U.S. Navy.
You might have delivered some of those.
There's a lot of Vietnam people around here. So
yeah, I mean,
anyway, Robert Undorf, Lieutenant Colonel Undorf, he flew a whole bunch of F-4 Phantoms. First time I went on the base was with him and his children. He flew F-4 Phantoms in Vietnam and helicopters. He was a hell of a pilot. He went to Beirut when they bombed the barracks and did all that. I got a little off subject, but anyway, the point is, there are novel ways to make highly explosive things, and there are ways of containing those highly explosive things so you can walk around and drop your phone. It does nothing till you get the kill packet. And where I was going with the men with goats and quantum computing is, you are in touch with metaphysical ability and spiritual ability for the operations and other things. Okay. And you know that I've had downloads, and I'm into all of this stuff, and that we've talked a lot about different people having different talents and skills. Well, that one guy, that he just did an interview the other day, Lynn, I forget his last name, but he was the men that stare at goats, the one that caused computer problems. He did it with his own mind.
Sure.
What happens when we evolve to the ability to use quantum computing and quantum electronics in such a way that now we can cause you to have problems in your Black Hawk while you're flying, or something else? What happens then? And also,
well, then it can't be hacked, because it's your DNA, your quantum field, and I can hack into people's fields, but your connection with the aircraft, I don't know. That's a whole different ballgame.
I'm talking about hacking into any kind of solid state electronic equipment from the atomic level, with metaphysically, which is what this guy did to shut down all this general's equipment. But recently we've had these other things. Somebody mentioned the French aircraft carrier yesterday in Louisiana. We had drones that we couldn't jam flying over bombers over there in Louisiana. We've had all kind of events this week.
Yeah.
We've had the laundry truck show up with explosives. And at Shepherd in Texas. We've had here in Tampa, I'm north of CENTCOM. And I've heard some things I shouldn't say. There's some lockdowns right now. Not just
I know there's some lockdowns. That stuff leaked out, but it's been shut down a lot. I'm like, I guarantee you there's stuff going on. They're not disclosing.
Yeah.
They want the enemy to know that they're being effective. So that's why that happens, guys. It's not freedom of speech. It's freedom to make sure we exist and survive.
Yeah. Well, alien.org and aliens.org. Okay. How weird would things get with conventional weaponry? F-16s and F-18 Hornets are quite old. B-52 is an old aircraft. It leaves a smoke trail. Those things have outdated electronics that are vulnerable. Well, there's that Donald Cook incident. We have a lot of weapons in space now. We have all these other weapons are energy-based weapons. And what they're doing, is they're leveraging all of the dimensions of the spectrums to operate on materials that are not explosive. We talked about explosive materials. Now we're talking about solid state circuitry. We're talking about chips that are architected, ASIC chip, different class of chips. And all I got to do is from space, hit that vehicle and hit that one chip. And now it's uncontrollable and your pilot's ejecting.
Yeah.
Or you thought you knew where your GPS was and you had two KC-135 tankers. And I messed with the GPS and oops, one of them clipped the other one. And now it's down on the ground. And this one barely landed with the tail off.
Yeah.
These are the kind of knowledge that we have heard stories of from people who have been abducted and gone on these crafts or, and I haven't had the opportunity to meet this gentleman, JP, that is former U.S. Army, but I've seen two craft. I can show you a picture of a craft. Last Memorial Day, I had an orb come here. It was very weird. I had an orb come here. It was a white orb. It came here. I heard voices. I'm just sitting in the backyard. We had barbecued. I was sitting in the jacuzzi, and I hear all these weird noises. And then I sit up on the deck, and I look over, and I see a white orb, and it's going east. And I'm like, I better take pictures right now. Nobody's going to believe me. I videotaped it, and I took a 4K picture of it on my phone. It is time-stamped with a metadata. I can't lie about it. It was interesting. I don't know what it was, but my point is that the level of intelligence that we are now talking about with these orbs that have been spotted, with the drones that have been spotted, with the craft that's been spotted, with your scientific imagination and what we're hearing, we're talking about a whole new war theater that puts conventional weaponry and solid states electronics in vulnerability states. So I understand why.
The orb, there was an orb that was videoed during 9/11 when the towers are collapsing. So it's been definitely, remember that. So
would you like to see the picture of the orb?
Sure.
I have it. It's real. I'm not joking. It's real. I can't lie. Would you like me to share this?
You're extremely intellectual. So
would you like to see it?
Yeah.
I have it for real. It's here. It's not a joke. Out of the video and everything. How bizarre it was I was sitting there in the jacuzzi on my laptop on this particular one, just watching Ancient Aliens. I got up and walked over the other side by the fence. I heard all these voices. And I was like, oh, it's just the kids over in the pool or something. It was a woman's voice. And then I went over on the deck and I look up and there it is. It's there. It's real. It's the one I saw was white, and
Yeah.
I couldn't tell if it was Tic Tac or not. I have a picture of it. I'll share it if you want to see. It's real. I'm not
Yeah,
lying.
sure.
Okay. All right. Let me share this. So this is where we are with the danger of electronics and communications. You think, oh, I'm the best. I got, hardened keys, asymmetric key exchange, high-end encryption. Let me see how I can do this. I'm in StreamYard. I haven't been in here in a little while. Where is is it over here?
So all the way down at the bottom, that little
Oh yeah, I see it. Okay, it's down there.
computer screen with a plus on it.
Yep, I see it. Okay, let me pop this up first. Open it up and then.
But somebody in the chat had a very interesting comment question. My understanding on Q phones is DNA linked, no interference of hacking, biometric of your individual connection, stops the corrupt transfers that were for PDS, trafficking kids, drugs, etc. And then somebody else said Q phones will be quantum, your own energy. No one can get in it except for you.
Okay. Well, there is, of the patents that I mentioned related to NATO, there's another one. There's two. One's a biometry patent. It has to do with a pair of glasses that you wear. It's a halo. It takes a slice of your head and uses that slice of your head to authenticate you, or a slice of your fingers, the material in 3 dimensions, or your leg, or any part of your body. The other one is DNA. It's a DNA as a derivative signature of your chromosome, either taken from your cheek tissue or your finger. You put your finger in and it pricks your finger, takes your DNA. So DNA is the holy grail of identity. These are all identity technologies. We could talk. Let me share this. Let me share this image file. Or now I'll share my screen. I'll just share the screen.
So Neuralink, somebody said Sunlime.
We could talk about Neuralink and the others. I did
implanted in your brain. Yeah, definitely.
I did NeuroSky for Judy Spitz with 3 ASIC EEGs. I know quite a bit about all the BCI. We can talk about that. So you see this? You see it? I don't know if you can see this picture. So there are the trees and the bamboo in the back of my yard that drives me crazy. And as I zoom in on this, this is a 4K picture. You see the orb?
Yeah, heck yeah.
That is not the moon. This is out there, and this is traveling east. My backyard is facing east. This is a 4K image. I actually have a video of this thing, and it's moving. And I was like, okay, I better take pictures. I ran inside the house to try to get the military grade binoculars to look at this thing, and it was gone.
Oh,
so it was moving quick. And I do have a video of the whole thing, but that happened. So with identity.
So was it just a coincidence it was passing over? Or do you think it was like surveilling you, or what do you think?
First off, I now question, because of the whole thing, and I have a video if you want to see that too. I was standing back there by that fence where that bamboo is.
Right.
And I was just pulling some weeds off the rocks there, and then I hear all this noise.
Yeah.
And I just, I was passing it off. The laptop was running over there. I was sitting there at barbecued out on Memorial Day. And then I look up and I see it. And it was, to catch it. If you don't catch things, then people, I saw a triangle from my jacuzzi come over the deck of my house at 300 feet heading toward MacDill, and it was completely silent June 9th, 2006.
Wow.
And that was when I had all the prednisone that I ate for my GI tract, that all these weird things were happening to me. I saw it then. I was on the phone when it happened, talking to somebody. So this isn't the first time, but this is the first time I got a picture, because I mean, that's a 4K image. The video is high def, and it's just kind of going like this. It's just going east, and you can see it's moving. It's not like stationary or anything like that. And then, but my point is that I met David Dare, talked to him, and these other people. And what do we hear? We all hear that these craft, we get all the physics and talking to these craft. A lot of people are like, they have the ability to telepathically authenticate you with your DNA, authenticate you with your DNA, and allow you to control them. And they are alive in terms of sentient being.
Mm-hmm.
So is that an AI sentient being? Is it a living creature? The one area that I'm very fascinated with is the descriptions that we get are that the actual equipment, it doesn't have rivets in it or seams or any of this. So me with coding and DNA beings or coding with intelligent, is this something that is it was grown based on code, and it was grown like an embryo grows to a human or a cow or animal? They grew to a craft, and how was it fabricated at the nanomachine level, where metals integrate and have skins that you can touch, and they're all these things. So my point is that level of technology and evolving to it, now once it comes out, what happens to our conventional weapons? Our communication and conventional weapons are now, they're, with quantum computing, we're sitting there in the decks, PowerPoints discussing, forget about encryption. It's gone. You're going to crack it in real time. Well, what's going to happen to solid state? So, I had a drone phone.
Yeah. What speed, Sunline?
Interesting. Well, I suspect that, AI drone surveillance will be used instead of helicopters and law enforcement on the beat, or even other things as it evolves, because it's cheaper.
Yeah.
And when you come over somebody and you monitor highways, and you're not in Cessnas and airplanes anymore, or on the ground, you're not obstructed, and you got a lot of you got the high ground, so you have the ability to take advantage of that. Now add that to an AI smart system, which I saw Palantir was going to be. I just saw a headline earlier. Palantir is being moved from military grade weapon targeting into civilian now, and I suspect it's being moved there to do these checksum like things I was telling you about, looking for integrity, look for your electronics integrity and your firmware integrity. It's a layer below, and your operating system and your applications. Look at the integrity of that constantly, because that's where you're getting hacked on 0 day. And so I came with 4 patents, and the patents were just for that. And then the next thing you know, I had a branch of the NSA inside the phone company that I wasn't affiliated with asking me questions about files from Morgan Stanley. And here's not just a whole bunch of severance money, but sign this so you won't ever talk, which, forget about it. You can't go make people sign things after the fact. That's illegal in the United States. You sign a non-compete up front, which is what I did for the CIA, and you sign an NDA after. And now you don't talk. You don't sign after the fact. That's garbage, illegal, and a federal crime and unconstitutional.
Good.
So you cannot do that to somebody. But they came and did that to me. And then I said, okay, wait a minute. This is just way out of control. Why is this happening to me? I did my job, and I've been doing my job. So I'm like, the banks are involved. And I'm like, Americans, not just military personnel, are getting robbed in their bank account while they're at work doing their job, whether they're Jiffy Lube changing oil or they're a CEO, whoever they are. I'm a patriot. I'm a white hat. So what did I do? I went to the FBI. When I got to the FBI that James Comey was running, they didn't know my identity. They told me I was born in St. Joseph's Hospital, Tampa, Florida, 1968. They told me I was born and raised in Utah. And I looked at them and I said, no, I wasn't. And this is when I didn't be, call me sheltered, call me naive. I was just doing my job, making a living. I wasn't political and all this stuff. I wasn't paying attention because I myself was living in a bubble or a silo that I had people who wanted me to do things like that and want to take credit for it. So that's why that patent got filed. Or the manager that I did that for went and blabbed his mouth about top secret patent information to a vendor, which is a big no-no. But my point was, I'm a patriot. So I go there. I'm like, what? I'm sitting there talking to the lady. I'm in an FBI building. If you've ever been in one of these buildings, one over here on Cypress, there are two very large gentlemen. I mean, very large. And when you go into the building, you walk through an X-ray machine. They don't want you with anything, not even your phone, and they are heavily armed. And anything that you're carrying with you that might go in goes through an X-ray machine too. Okay. And then you go inside, and once you get to the FBI agent, you're in a very closed room, and the doors are quite thick, behind glass about that thick, and you're sitting on one side, they're sitting on the other. So the agent goes, well, you're from Utah. And I go, well, no, I'm not. I was born in St. Joseph's Hospital. And so we're sitting there, and I'm like, look, you need to confiscate my laptop. You need to understand what is going on. Banks are getting robbed. And she says, well, you're from Utah, and, blah, blah, blah. I go, well, there's a CIA file on me. It was created by John Deutsch, director of CIA, when I worked for Black CIA. They look at me. Then the lady's still there. I pulled out a concealed weapon permit. I go, you just did a background check on me 6 months ago. I go, do you know on 9/11, I did all the work for the FBI on your request through the chairman and CEO of Intermediate Communications for all of it? And I'm looking at her. She doesn't know that I'm all up in everything that she's done and her government and everything. And she starts mumbling and says, I can't. She goes, I can't take your laptop. She goes, don't turn it in. Just don't turn it in. I go, lady, you have no idea what is going on here, do you? So at 2:30 that same day, because I went to them early that day, at 2:30, I had to be out at Temple Terrace to get my laptop and stuff. And so I showed up without my laptop, and I said, well, the FBI told me not to give it to you. And then they said, well, we'll talk to the FBI. And then they started playing 20 questions with me about backup devices that I had told my boss, when you code that much, when you have that much code, you don't rewrite every line. I mean, now I'm using AI to write code, but before I had a library of subroutines and architectures that I would reuse depending on what language I was in and apply it when I didn't need to create something new. And when you write millions of lines of code, you back things up because it costs money. It costs the company money. It costs the shareholders that company money. It costs, So anyway, they tried that at me, and I said, okay, no problem. So I forfeited. I'm like, I'll come and I'll give you I ended up meeting the guy in the parking lot over here and gave him the laptop. I ended up forfeiting a hard drive that was military grade formatted and 2 thumb drives that were military grade formatted. I gave them for 2 weeks. Okay. And let them do whatever they wanted to do with them. And then after 2 weeks was up, I called over and I said, hey, you have my equipment. You've been there for 2 weeks. And if you don't give it to me, the sheriff's coming over there this afternoon to arrest some people. And I had my equipment back at 2:30. But my point was.
Excellent. Good job.
I had to do what I had to do. But my point is that first off, there is no way in the world I was going to betray people that were in my country. That wasn't going to happen. And two, I could not figure out why in the world are these people. They threatened me. They were going to give me we're not going to give you your severance. All these threats. Okay. And now I'm like, I don't take threats lightly. Okay. I don't take them lightly. So I mean, later on after these things subside, there were some threats from me and my family. And so these people learned more about who I was and my background and my family's background and these things. But that was all unnecessary. And so during the middle of this goes on for years. Okay. So I was so upset. I made it very clearly to people that were able to make it very clearly to Admiral Rogers what the hell was going on in the phone companies and with phone companies that he might want to go chat with President Trump, who got elected in November 2016. That's how crazy things got.
Wow.
And there's a reason for that. As one, not just because I voted for him, is because I got tired of watching what started in Brazil in 1996 with thrown elections that I witnessed and was supposed to go to Brazil. I got tired of these exploits and I was working. Well, after that, what do you think they did to me? So the next thing they did was they hacked into my IRS stuff where they met a lawyer, and that lasted 3 years. And they made all kind of threats. One of the threats, this is the most stupidest threat they've ever made, but I have it in writing. After I paid them, they tried to say I owed them $100. It was $100 and change. They said they were going to take my house for $100 and change. I told them to their face, good luck with that one. Go ahead and try it for $100. No, you're not going to do any of that. Yeah. But it was lawyers in 3 years. Okay, so now they tamper with my identity.
I went through a lot of that too. Yeah,
stalking, and it was stalking,
trying to destroy you. Yeah.
After this Snowden patent, the stalking began, and now the question is: when you're being stalked, and you know that you're doing these things, now you have to ask yourself. Once you see that was happening, okay, now the stalking that I saw looked like it was happening from inside the phone company. Okay. Yeah. I would see stalking, the kind of stalking communication stuff that you're talking about. This is what I would see that would happen maybe in these other countries, but happen in the United States. They would go to the Red Cross. Okay. They would break in the Red Cross's system and they would get unfettered access to communications across the Red Cross's network and other ways of attacking you. Or other charities that we had donated circuit. They weren't even paying for it. We donated it to. Now, the only kind of people that know these things are union people and inside people, okay, that know they're going to come at you, or an intelligence person that is trained in communications inside your country. So I wanted to put a stop to all these things. That's why I went and did the patents and the different, the multi-factor caller ID. It's so simple. Caller ID is spoofed every day. People call you. They say, "Oh, I'm the bank, or I'm a credit card company," right? And somebody's compromised your account. We need to change your password or your crypto. And I call you and I lie and I steal credentials from you because maybe you're 95 years old and you don't know. You grew up in the 50s and you trust everybody. Or I call you and I compromise you in some other way as a military or intelligence, and now you're done with phone numbers and caller ID. That is the caller ID, P-asserted ID, ANI. These are hidden caller IDs that are asserted in the protocols, not just in the phones, but the VoIP. So I got tired of it, and I got tired of watching myself get abused and everybody else get abused, so I filed the patents. So that's what happened to me as a result. So I don't have nice things to say about James Comey other than I was happy to see he got indicted this week.
Oh, yeah.
And other people in the Biden administration and anybody else involved with that might have been in the phone company that that might have been trying to lay off my colleagues and outsource top secret stuff to India or elsewhere. I don't have anything nice to say. I'm not going to say to you what I really think. Okay. But that day that I visited with the FBI, I was so nervous about that situation that thank God I had the concealed weapon permit, because I started carrying my concealed weapon immediately.
Yeah.
And that was what I had to do. I had no idea that things would get to the level they are today. And so when Tulsi talks about these things, I went through them on a personal level as a professional, just doing my job. I and after that, good luck trying to get a job, because you're so blacklisted. You are blacklisted so hard that anybody that calls in. So one of the reasons that I wrote these patents up and put these things in was so that I would have references, because on 9/11, while I'm sitting there, okay, this is the day of 9/11, 8:30, the phone call after the first building. 2:30, I get 14 spreadsheets, courtesy of Bernie Ebbers, who's now passed, but telling me how he's going to fire 4,000 of my friends and colleagues from the company I work for that he just bought, trying to cover his ass in the state of New York Supreme Court justice system in Brooklyn, where he's in bankruptcy court asking for mercy. That was at 2:30. At 4:30 was the FBI. So when I saw that, I'm like, okay, my daughter was born in April of 2001. This is September now. My birthday is on the 15th. It was a weird week. You know, I sit there and I see that and I'm like, you know what? Then I went through that merger and all these mergers where I saw 80,000 people lose their jobs, and I saw all these behaviors. I'm like, I'm going to live my life, and I'm just going to start preparing today on 9/11 so that I can make sure that my child can have her education that I want her to have, and that I can survive for when they throw me under the bus.
Yeah.
Which is what exactly they did to me.
Yeah.
February 13th, 2015. They did exactly that. So I tell you, while I have seen all kinds of people, including people with military backgrounds, have this happen to them and have their lives destroyed. And I can understand why people have nervous breakdowns when they get stalked or when they get compromised. But the problem is not just as severe internally to us and what's happening, because our enemies can do this to us inside the country and outside. They're doing it to the branches of the government. So I appreciate Doge and I appreciate the other things, but with Iran and these countries, they have been guilty of doing, cyber things to us continuously. It's their agenda. And it's not just theirs, the Chinese and these other countries and Russian Bear and Russian blocks. So, where we are is we are now on the extrapolated Kurzweil singularity path to these technologies, which is probably why aliens.org and alien.org is probably going to be a real revelation in terms of what are going to be the rules of engagement now, and what is going to be ethical and not ethical, and are there going to be any boundaries once these exotic weapons come into theater, wherever they're coming from, whether there are deep state had them and we had them and we didn't want to release them because this kind of craziness can happen, or we have some other species living here with us that has been doing exactly what we just discussed in terms of quantum technologies and metaphysical things and harming humans and their technologies. I mean, we are at this level now, and it is trajected. And the Kurzweil forecast is for 2045 being the completion of the singularity, but it's happening. That projection, that was a forecast. You make a forecast that's intelligent person saying, well, I think it's going to happen out here. No, it's happening. It's happening now.
I agree. Everything's speeded up massively.
And this week, one of the big things that we had was NVIDIA conference. And one of the huge things that I was concerned about because of all of the cyber hacking in the data centers and concern, the revelation this week is of a GPU core set that has RAM right up next to it. And the value of that, so what happened here with this patent? What happened here with this patent was I had Dell equipment that was using what is called the SAN plane. The SAN plane is a 10 gigabit Ethernet network in the back of a data center that goes to a huge DMX 5000 or whatever EMC storage calls it now. It has all your data in it. And the person that wrote the code was sending millions of packets back and forth off the SAN. And I took those packets off the SAN and I put them in DRAM right up on a bus where the DRAM chips slide in, and it's a bus right next to the CPUs on a board. That's RAM. So that was a 30 million times boost. And instead of going back on that network, I did all that work in RAM. I brought it in one read in RAM and did all that work in nanoseconds. Well, now what you're seeing with the release of the NVIDIA stuff this week, with Blackwell was before, you're seeing the chips clustered right next to the RAM. So the throughput to the RAM and the amount of RAM is huge. This gives a computing AI advantage to these architectures in the AI cloud in a level of sophistication to the military, in particular to militaries, to drones that are flying on their own, or F-35s that are now flying on their own. I think the guy ejected and the F-35 was flying itself. Okay.
Landed.
Yeah.
Safely landed, and they had to send a helo out to like get the guy. That's what that was. Wow. Yes. I thought, well, what was it? Did it land safely, or did the plane crash and you guys went out to get him? So wow, that's what happened. That makes sense.
Yeah, saved us a lot of taxpayer dollars.
Thank you.
But I mean, this conversation, there were some BCI. Okay, so all of these things, the BCI and all the things are in the phone company with forecasts that I have of when is the landline going to die? When is the cell phone going to die? Okay, and I have trajectories. I had the landline beginning to die around 2025. I have this dying around 2030.
Wow.
And BCI. So what did Scott do with BCI? You were talking about these things a minute ago that people were asking. I had a NeuroSky headset that Judy Spitz bought me with software from UC Berkeley. It was created by the UC Berkeley team that created NeuroSky. Has 3 chips, one on your ear and one on your forehead and one on your head. Anyway, 3 chips, ASIC chips. And what my goal was, and what they made me do, was they wanted me to think my password. And so this headset was $500. The software was another $100 when you bought it bundled. It was $600. There were other systems like Emotive that had 16 chips. And then there was Theodore Berger and these other people where they had these headsets and they had hundreds of chips.
Jesus.
And they were reverse engineering different things. Okay. So Theodore Berger is the godfather of all of this.
Different things.
Okay. Yeah, he's the godfather of all of this. So how this starts with the first neural circuit chip in Oakland on the telephone poles with the surveillance cameras, because as a human being, you can be in a crowd of people and a gunshot fires and you know what direction it comes from.
Right.
And he took that circuit and put it on an electronic chip. And after he put on the electronic chip, they had it interface to the cameras in Oakland, and they were able to use the cameras to find when people committed crimes with guns and lower the incidence of violence there in Oakland. It was now they're in a lot of cities. That's where it started. So then what is he doing? He did these technologies. He was working with rats and tracing brain communication, tracing the signaling between your brain and the other components of your body, the communication of it. Okay, that's what that man was doing. He went from there to DARPA and he went black. Part of what that was about, and you can see there's an implant that this lady has, and she's eating a candy bar with a robotic arm. It's on the internet. You can see it. And also the one physicist, I forget his name, Steve, he was in a wheelchair. He was a paraplegic. He had it in his head. He used it to type and do things. He was a physicist.
Wow.
Anyway, the reason that he was supposed to go into the DARPA projects was because of wounded soldiers. One of the things that they wanted to be able to do with wounded soldiers was to give them their life back, especially ones that lost limbs, use the BCI to help them. And so that's the lady with a candy bar. Well, that evolved. Okay. This was way before Elon Musk. Wow. There's no Elon Musk. There's no Neuralink, nothing.
Damn.
Well, those implants were defective because what happened was they would degrade and the neurons would degrade. They had to take it out and re-stick one in. So along comes Elon Musk and he comes up with probes. Oh, by the way, I'm in the middle of all of this because I'm drawing Visio diagrams of, look, let's make some BCI. I'm like, the EEG doesn't work well and we can have some BCI things. And I've got the Visio diagrams of how to do these kind of things with these electrodes. I'm like, this is going to be the wave of the future. So then here comes Elon Musk. And then the next thing you know, you got Neuralink and the Da Vinci surgeon system that is better than a surgeon's eyes, that can implant the electrodes so that they don't damage the neurons. So you don't have to keep doing this over and over again. And now it's wireless charging. And the next thing you got Neuralink. And now you've got several patients that have been successfully, implanted. And, well, here we are at the crossroads of Kurzweil singularity with what happens when you start doing the brain computer interfacing, the BCI. We're at 2.0 and 3.0, and there's another one that just came out. It's wafer thin. And it's this